So welcome back, friends, to a very chilly day in the homestead. So a couple things today. We have a mystery tool, an unsolved mystery that I'm at a loss. I can't figure it out. And a tile update. So today we'll be finishing up the tile. Actually, at the end of the video, I'll give you a little clip and kind of show you it's turning out beautiful. It's definitely suffering from a few amateur mistakes, but overall really pleased with it. So remember our friend Ken. Ken is a friend of the channel and a particular friend of our family. Sends us interesting things, right? The last one that was really stood out to me was that remember that little thing I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it was like a pencil sharpener, and it was an old-fashioned leather strop for sharpening razor blades. I'll put a link at the end if you want to watch that. It's a very cool tool. Well, the UPS guy came today, and I saw this was from Ken, so I opened it up immediately because he sends the coolest things. And I've been puzzling with this thing for about 15 minutes, and I have no idea what it is. So let's take a close look at it. Problem is, the most tempting thing is he puts the answer inside a sealed envelope, which I have not unsealed or looked at, and I'm not going to because I'd like to see how many Smarties are in there. So let's look at the features, and I mean, I have no idea. As far as I can tell, this thing is made out of, it's got to be aluminum. I thought it was a polymer at first, but then I brought it outside and it's freezing my hands. I'm like, oh yeah, it is. It must be aluminum because it's not super heavy. It's got these sharp tines on them, and then in the body, you can see it's got these Allen-headed set screws. Obviously, it's meant to slide down something, and these set screws are to tighten up from here and secure it to another item of some sort. It's got the roll pin stops, so it's only got a limited range of motion here, but these heavy cleats, these spikes, are for grabbing and biting into something. And you can see right there that it's been milled out. There's some channels milled out on both sides. And there's three pieces to this. There's these guys here, which are also aluminum. I stuck a magnet on them, and it didn't seem to. I didn't seem to pick up anything. So it is non-ferrous. I thought for a minute these things must slide in these channels, and they do indeed. They do fit, and they've got the set screws, so it's meant to be set. I mean, I thought for a minute, if you look at these holes, I thought that might be a mounting point as well, that you would put some screws in there, but there's no shoulder on the inside. They're just a hole straight through, so that wouldn't work, obviously. And these roll pins are, I mean, they're not super, it's not super custom. It's like they didn't drill them inside here either, and they kind of, I don't know, they seem to be wobbling about, almost like something that's put there temporarily to prevent a range of motion until you got it mounted up. But I don't get the impression it's for super heavy duty use. But I mean, I really have no idea what in the world is this. So put your recommendation in the comments if you know what this is, because I couldn't even begin. I can't get my mind working around what the purpose of this thing would be. So there you go. Not exactly a content-rich video today. So what do we do? How do we fill up the rest of this video? How about we talk about, have you heard the funny story, the big fight going on between Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi? So a couple days ago, Pelosi, it's this a little sophomoric temper tantrum that both of these people are having back and forth. It's absolutely hilarious, especially when you consider it at the state level. I mean, the Speaker of the House, what is she, number 3 in line for the presidency if the president and the vice president were to fall? So I mean, we're pretty serious players here. So what happened was Nancy sent an official letter to President Trump saying that, well, we're going to have to, because of the government shutdown, we're going to have to postpone your State of the Union address. I mean, it was a ridiculous thing. It was a really I guess her attempt at trolling the Donald. Well, you should probably never try to troll the Donald, because he'll probably outdo you every time, and you'll end up regretting it. So a couple days later, Pelosi and her entourage and everything, they're getting ready to go on this trip to the Middle East. During the government shutdown, right? And of course, they don't fly commercial like the peasants. Interesting thing about Nancy Pelosi is, she's not super bright. I mean, you can tell when you listen to her talk, and I know she's suffering a little bit from dementia and probably the early onset of Alzheimer's. But even before that, she was never considered to be a real bright spark in the Congress. But now she is up against someone who actually I think is relatively intelligent, and I don't know that's going to end well for her. So she was smart enough to become one of the wealthiest people in this country. And I don't know how you get so wealthy. I don't know how these politicians go into Congress. Remember the Clintons? They were almost practically begging for money because they had been decimated by the cost of running these multiple campaigns. And then when they leave later, they're, 400, 500, $500 million wealthy. How does that happen from being a public servant? Who knows? I'm sure it's all on the up and up. But anyway, so the Pelosi and her group and entourage, they're getting ready to go on this, fact-finding mission or something to do over in the Middle East. And they're in the bus actually going to the airport. They're going to fly, as far as I understand it, military aircraft. What that means, I don't imagine she's sitting on a little bunk in a C-140 with the earphones on and all that. It's probably very, very plush, probably a Learjet of some sort, who knows. But anyway, they're on the bus actually getting ready to depart and all of the stuff, and then the Donald sends a letter and says, I'm sorry, because of the shutdown, we're not going to be able to provide you that military aircraft. Left them high and dry, and I thought this was absolutely hilarious. So is this, I mean, in the hand wringing and all of the uproar over this, and what a horrible person the Donald is. I mean, it's just hilarious. This whole government shutdown thing, if you haven't been following it, is basically hinging on Trump wants funding for his wall. And he's asking for $5 billion, which is probably about a quarter of the amount it would take to do the entire thing. This is something that's very popular with people, and it was the cornerstone of his campaign when he ran for president. Close to 50% of Americans are in support of securing our borders, and the amount that he's asking, this $5 billion. I mean, that's, of course, it's a tremendous amount of money. But when you look at it as the budget as a whole, I mean, it is, it's like a fraction of a percent. I mean, I think it's even less than what is given to the National Endowment of the Arts, which, we were paying people to cut out pictures of Jesus Christ and put him in a glass of urine and pass that off as art, but we're willing to fund that, but we're unwilling to secure our border at the south. So it's ridiculous. It's kind of ridiculous. So it's going to be interesting to see who blinks, and the pressure, I think, is starting to become almost unbearable for the Democrats, because you can see they're starting to turn on one another and feed on each other, and that's typically what they do. And I think there's going to be people that are just starting to stand up and say, hey, enough is enough. If you are affected by the government shutdown, which I don't think most people are, it's kind of a bummer if you want to go to the national parks and you've planned a trip and you can't go there because there's no workers. For me personally, I'm affected because I guess I've been waiting for over a year for my tax stamps for my suppressors to come through. Not a word. So I'm sure that that's not moving forward. So apart from that, who cares? I mean, I don't. It just doesn't really affect me, and I don't think it affects most people. So the Democrats or Republicans or whatever can get up there and create all these dramas and try to scare people, and they always focus on the things that touch us, right? Never on the things that touch them. So telling us that we're not going to be safe in the air, and the TSA workers are not going to come in because they're living paycheck to paycheck, and all these things. Well, life is tough, but why don't you just give him the money? Give him the money. It's a tiny percentage. It is not something that he can go back on. If he were to break that promise, it would finish him for his reelection for second term. And I think obviously he's smart enough to know that. I think he's probably really a brilliant guy. But he can't cave on that. It's just, it has to happen. So what will they do? I don't know. Maybe partial funding. Something's going to happen, because I think the heat's being turned up on the Democrats, and they don't like it. It's exposing their hypocrisy. It's exposing them for what they are and all of the games that they've played for so many years. So, yeah. That's my take anyway. Take it or leave it. Take it for what it's worth, excuse me. In addition to the 2 bathroom remodels, I thought, why not go ahead and tear up the stairs too while we have all the tools out? So this is something that I'd left undone when we put the first floor in. I never got to these stairs, and it was the old original oak oak stairs. So what I have here is I've got some CVG fir and the risers. I saved enough material from the original floor that we're gonna rebuild these, put the skirts in, and finish all that up too, so it matches the original floor. It's gonna be a little dark in here. Here's the bull nose. Look at that, isn't that beautiful? CVG fir right there. It's gonna look so much better. Tie in. I'm not a fan of oak. Actually, I don't like it. I don't know if it's because it doesn't grow in this area, or I just never have liked it. I've never liked the look of it. I've always been really drawn to the golden color of the fir.